Well, hello, boys and girls, ladies and gents. This is DeFub21, and I thought after a bit of time and reflection, and by that I mean the video I did as an immediate response or reaction to the Microsoft E3 2017 press conference, the video I did for that didn't work properly, won't render out, can't figure out why, so I'm now having to do belatedly a second video on the subject. This E3 Microsoft or Xbox press conference, whatever they decide to call it, I have to go check it up and stick that in the name of the video when I push it up on YouTube. But whatever Microsoft called the press conference, this is probably, all things considered, the most important press conference they've had for the Xbox One since it was initially announced. Because obviously, for all intents and purposes, they're attempting to relaunch the platform, spearheaded with their new piece of new ultra-powerful hardware, aka Project Scorpio, from here on out to be known as Xbox One X, which is frankly a confusing name because you already have Xbox One S for the smaller, more compact form factor standard Xbox One. In terms of my thoughts on this press conference, point of comparison, an obvious one would be Sony's press conference, where they revealed the PlayStation 4 Pro, laid out officially the specs, and then showed games and gameplay and all the rest for the system. And that was late last year, I think a month or two before the system launched. In the meantime, I mean, compared to that press conference, the PS4 Pro press conference was, frankly, it wasn't a disaster, but it was a kind of a directionless, it didn't explain what the PS4 Pro was really for. It didn't put down a kind of a, there wasn't, the messaging wasn't there, and it just didn't really, explain what it was. It just didn't do a very particularly good job of what it was, and the messaging was also, was a bit muddled. I think it was quite probably the single weakest press conference Sony has had for the PlayStation 4 since the PlayStation 4 was announced in 2013. Their press conferences have either been good or even out and out fantastic. I thought last year's press conference was fantastic. So that is, in a way, it's good news for Microsoft in that it was a better press conference than that one. Unfortunately, again, we already knew what the hardware specs were because they talked to Digital Foundry, and Digital Foundry did these videos and articles on it, so we know exactly what the hardware is. You can go find out the specs by looking Digital Foundry up on the internet if you don't know what they are. But it's a 6 teraflop games console. It's been heavily optimized for current game engines used in games. It's supposed to put out a native 4K 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second on a 4K capable TV of pretty much all the multi-platform games and first-party exclusives from Microsoft. The problem is, and this is again, the problem is, while the press conference is better than the PS4 Pro reveal one was, the fact is it cannot get around. This is why it's particularly why this press conference, again, it had to kind of rejuvenate or restart the kind of the Xbox, if not the Xbox brand, that's certainly the Xbox One brand, get more momentum and hype into it, because again, Microsoft is like massively trailing behind the PlayStation 4. I think they have half the install base of the PlayStation 4, about 25, 26 million units, compared to somewhere between 50 and 55 million on the PlayStation side of things. So there is a huge gap, and to my mind, assuming this games console generation lasts at least 6 to 7 years after this press conference, I don't think Microsoft is going to be able to make up the difference. I don't think they're going to be able to catch up with Sony. And the reason, don't get me wrong, the completely botched lineup, or launch, should I say, of the Xbox One, that key 12 months in 2013 was a total mess. The no trade-in games, digital lock to your account digitally forever, all that sort of stuff was played very badly with the console gamer, population, particularly those who like to trade in their games. But it was also a case of, Again, for those who don't know, the system was $100 more expensive at launch, €100 more expensive at launch than the PlayStation 4, but was less powerful. And of course, the reason for this was because they insisted on packing in the Kinect 2.0, which is which is again their fancy motion control camera in with every system, and core gamers, let alone hardcore gamers, couldn't care less about it. They promptly dropped it the first chance they got from the box to shave quite a bit of money off the price, which kind of did get them back some momentum. But they've been trailing behind Sony ever since. And the single biggest reason why that is, to my mind, is just, well, it's down to the games, or more specifically, the lack of games, quote unquote, only on Xbox. And this is not so much the Xbox One as a console's fault. It's certainly not the current kind of head of the kind of Xbox division, Phil Spencer's fault. But the fact of the matter is that with the Xbox 360, Microsoft had a hugely advantageous position, principally in the US. I think Sony pretty much still dominated in Japan and Europe, but they had a hugely dominant position in the United States. Particularly with Xbox Live, was the place to go play Call of Duty and so on. And so Microsoft was able to get away with the 360 with a succession of a handful of exclusive games, principally games from the Halo series, of which we had 4, 5... Actually, no, sorry. My mind is mistaken there. 3... Halo Reach, ODST, and Halo 4. So that's, a significant number of Halo games over what was quite a long console generation, not to mention 4 Gears of War games, in other words, the first 3, and then that other one, which has basically got a glorified excuse for a single-player campaign, just more multiplayer, whose name I have forgotten because I never bought it, wasn't interested, and didn't play it. And basically what that has meant is that over that time period, close to a decade, Microsoft already started off from day one with the original Xbox and then with the 360 not having the kind of internal development, first-party development capacity that Sony possesses. And they failed, even though the 360 was hugely successful, they failed to build upon it. They failed to either buy out existing studios or even the odd struggling publisher, and they failed to create more internal first-party studios. And they also, equally importantly, failed to both use their such new expanded development capacity or their existing internal development capacity to create new big-budget IPs. Sony, in comparison, both during the last generation and during the current generation, has had no problem in doing just that. And it puts Microsoft in a hugely disadvantaged position. They don't have the first party exclusive games that Sony does. They don't have the internal development capacity for it. They didn't take the risks they should have on new big budget IP last generation. They don't appear to have taken it this generation, or at least when they have made attempts. There was one game, Project Tusk, I think, that they cancelled. And then there was that game they were making with a Japanese developer / publisher. I think was it From Software? Not From Software. One of the other Japanese, I can never remember the name. It was the one with the giant dragony things that I've forgotten the name of. They cancelled that recently as well. It was a project something or other, I think. Someone will remind me in the comments. But either way, that game got cancelled. I Crackdown, okay. A lot of people liked the first game and liked the second one. I couldn't. Again, I'm not interested. I didn't buy Gears of War 4. It just looks like more of the same, but with prettier graphics. Not interested in that. I bought Halo 5, and that's the last exclusive game for the system. I think I might actually bought Inside as well, but that's an indie game. The last big budget AAA game I bought that was exclusive to the Xbox One was Halo 5, and I've not bought anything else since. My Xbox One basically sits under my TV gathering dust and gets turned on intermittently so I can kind of buy for free the gold games, and then gets turned off again. There's not been the exclusive first party IP. I mean, during the last generation, I played with consoles. The 360 for me was overwhelmingly dominant. It was for me, it was 360 and PC, particularly for any first person shooter that wasn't exclusive to console. and again, I played my RPGs, my third-person shooters, played them on the 360, and between PC and 360, those were my two go-to systems. But I did also have a PlayStation 3, and the reason I went out and spent the money on the PlayStation 3 was for the exclusives. The only two kind of third-party ones that I bought the system for were basically Valkyrie Chronicles and Metal Gear Solid 4, and then everything else is first-party. So Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. Again, 3 is kind of a victim of 2's success, so it's the weakest of the 3 in my opinion. For that reason, although 1 is nowhere near as good as 2 or as technically accomplished as 2 or 3. And obviously, of course, what I think is probably the single best overall first-party or third-party game of the last generation, which is of course The Last of Us. Plus there were other games as well that I bought, again, that were exclusive, that I bought on the PS3. If you already own a PlayStation 4, there is no reason to buy an Xbox One as a kind of a buying it for the exclusives purchase. The gap between the exclusive games that are on the catalog of exclusive games that are now available on the PS4 compared to what's on the Xbox One in terms of quality and quantity is massive. Uncharted 4 has gotten fantastic reviews. Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a recent release, completely new IP, again from Sony first party, that's gotten great reviews. There's Bloodborne, which is a kind of a second party or third party exclusive to the platform. What else have we gotten? The list just goes. I'm gonna have to keep for it. Well, there's Days Gone is coming more than likely this year. It was announced last E3, and there's a constant flow of really high quality and many of them very, very good, very, very exciting first party exclusives on PS4. And it is if Sony was in the position that Microsoft was in after the disastrous time they had in 2013, it is those first party and second party exclusives that would have allowed Sony or enabled Sony to claw back market share from Microsoft. But Microsoft has no ability to match Sony in this key area. They don't have the internal capacity. They would have needed to have started buying studios or building studios and started work on new big budget IP based on again new intellectual properties. Last generation, certainly the second half of the Xbox 360's lifespan, to be able to compete with Sony and the PlayStation. And the fact is they just haven't. And the press conference is a personification of that. There were some very impressive looking games. Anthem, the new Metro game, none of those are Xbox exclusives. They are all going to be coming to PC. They're all going to be coming to PlayStation 4. And when they say coming to Xbox and Windows 10, yeah, those games might be turning up on the Windows Store, but nobody's going to buy them on the Windows Store. I mean, have you seen the pricing? I mean, the Windows Store version of Gears of War on PC is €70 in here in Ireland and across the Eurozone. It's 70 quid. That's close to $80. It's extortionately expensive for a PC game. No one's going to buy it at that price. Even now it's at a 50% off sale and it's still 35 quid, which is, not exactly, it's not, expensive, but it's not cheap either by PC gaming standards for a game on sale. And, as I said, Metro 2030 might be the next Metro Exodus may well be coming. 2033 Exodus may be coming to Windows Store, but you can bet your ass it's also coming to Steam. Maybe a little bit later, but it is coming to Steam. And the PC gamers, they will wait. It's also the same for Anthem. Will definitely be coming to EA's Origin Store, which is as one of the main competitors for Steam. And I would imagine there'll be little to no delay between the release of it on the Windows Store and it being released on Origin, if at all. In fact, I wouldn't imagine that. I think that game is probably not coming to Windows 10 Store. It's coming to Origin. I don't see, Microsoft have to pay EA an awful lot of money to devalue their Origin digital store by making that game available, which is effectively their most high-profile new IP in years. And the investment into it must have been massive. Just to put on a Microsoft digital store in the PC space. So I think we'll see that in Origin pretty much at launch or not long after. And it's just reiterating the point. They don't have the internal first-party development capacity that Sony has. They appear to be. They are, even if they did, even with the development capacity they do have, they don't appear to be willing to take risks. They've cancelled the two, new high profile IPs that we knew they were working on, certainly in 2013, which is Project Tusk. They've cancelled that, or maybe that was the name of the team working on it, but that project was cancelled. And the dinosaur giant monster fighting game where you rode on the back of giant monstery thingies, who's made by a Japanese developer publisher, who again I completely can't remember the name of, that's been cancelled as well. And they've got nothing else to show. They were announcing their new souped up $500 games console, the Xbox One X, at the time of recording yesterday, and they have no amazing my god, that's effing cool new IP or intellectual property, just first party exclusive games that I saw that were on it. I mean, they say when it says kind of Xbox One console launch exclusive, that means it's coming to everything else eventually, and people will wait. Why would I mean, for 500 quid I could buy a seriously more powerful graphics card for my PC than the one I've got. I could probably or I could buy an upgrade bundle for my PC, new motherboard, RAM, processor. I could do with one of those high-end Ryzen 5s with the 6 cores and 12 threads. That would be a serious upgrade over my i5 3570K. And again, there's just it may be massively more powerful hardware, and it's true that the Metro and Anthem all looked fantastic on the system, but I don't have a 4K TV. I'm not planning on buying one until I can get one with a variable refresh rate, so I can get rid of VSync and have that ultra high frame rate, low latency gaming I've been dreaming of, which apparently the Xbox One X supports according to Digital Foundry. But again, that's for me. That's a new TV, probably over $1,000 plus the system. That's I'd rather save my pennies and upgrade my PC. And again, or even not even that. I don't own a PlayStation 4 yet, but I am going to get one for the exclusives, for Uncharted, for Bloodborne, for Horizon Zero Dawn, for Days Gone, and of course Last of Us 2 when it arrives. And by that stage, that'll PS4 Pro may well be down to $350, maybe $299 even, within a year from now, maybe even by Christmas. Who knows? Fingers crossed. And it's just there's nothing. They showed nothing at the conference that got me genuinely excited about. Oh, I have to go out and buy this hardware. Nothing that would make me to go out and spend. Pardon me if you heard me belching there. Nothing that would make me want to go out and spend $1,000 on a replacement for a system I spent $1,000 on in 2013, plus more for games and accessories. That has been, for the most part, just become a glorified Games of Gold box under my television that I rarely play. Instead, in favour of playing my PC instead, because again, the multi-platform games look better on it, they're faster on it, and I mean, it really has been a turnaround for the. It really has been a turnaround for the books, but it's not just the mistakes they made in 2013. Microsoft has got a serious and very clear weakness against Sony that's a result of lack of long-term investment in building up their internal first-party studio capacity and a lack of long-term investment in new big-budget IP. And Sony, as I said, could have, if they were in Microsoft's position, could use all that those exclusives to claw their way back. Instead, because Microsoft screwed things up so much about the launch window for the first 12 months after the system was announced and the actual hardware itself, that they that rather than using it to claw their way back to to be on an even keel with their first party exclusives, this is Sony that is, they are instead using them to effectively bury Microsoft and the Xbox One. My fingers are crossed for them, but I do not. Very hardcore gamers are those who've got an awful lot of disposable income, which I do not. To spend and therefore will be happy to do so on this piece of hardware along with a 4K TV may be happy to buy it, but I don't think anyone else will be. It's just not. They just, yeah, the hardware is great. They don't have the games. They don't have the exclusives. I don't care about Forza Motorsport. I don't care about Gears of War 4 or Halo 5 or Gears of War 5 or Halo 6. I want, where's the new exciting IP? I don't care about Days of Decay. Or is it Days of Decay or Decay of Days? The zombie one they showed off, the open world sequel to the last gen title. I didn't like that game for a variety of reasons I won't get into. I'm not interested in buying it. Might change my mind on that, but if I do buy it, it'll be on PC. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on the subject. It's better than the PS4 Pro reveal, but nowhere near good enough, I think, to get them back some momentum or convince me to go out and buy Project Scorpio, now known as Xbox One X. Let me know your thoughts on the subject in the comments. Let me know of any exclusive games that you know of for the system that you think that'll make you want to go out and buy the system. If you like this video, please like it, and if you haven't for some strange reason subscribed to my channel already, please do so for more scintillating content of me complaining about Microsoft's lack of first-party IP and new IP by subscribing to my channel. This is DeFub21 signing off. Toodaloo.